Hey there, what's up? In this video, I'm going to talk about the 9/11 conspiracy theory, and I have my iPhone light illuminating my face because the ceiling lights are just like they're like way up there, so they just like hit my face from at an angle that casts a shadow. My face like it doesn't illuminate my face. It would have to be like right at the front, in front of my face to be better, and this is a little better. So yeah. But yeah, basically the 9/11 conspiracy theory that I'm not sure who came up with it. It was probably Alex Jones or some other kook. Um, but yeah, well for this, you know, doing this is like a kook thing. Coming up with this conspiracy theory, but yeah, I don't actually believe the conspiracy theory that the government did an inside job. They actually set up the and like brought down the buildings and stuff, because I mean there's a bunch of people over there. As an excuse to like invade the Middle East and like have a war on terrorism. But there's a bunch of to my understanding, there's a bunch of people over there in the Middle East who have, because America has been meddling in their, affairs. They're getting pretty annoyed, so a lot of them are actually organizing to fight back against those intruders like America, and even like, because okay, so they say that I don't know, the airplanes are trying to look for like airplane signs that they might have been a missile or something like that, like a concealed missile in the shape of a plane or something like that. That's pretty weird, but yeah, I don't think the government had to set all that up. I mean, sure as hell. I mean, I think that just the steel just weakened from the explosion and the planes hitting it, and since there was enough heat to like weaken it, and then that's how it collapsed. And I guess like um they I don't know, they actually did, unless they're challenging themselves, they didn't have to like do that, like set up the do an inside job the way the conspiracy theorists think they did. They didn't actually have to do it, because there's like people who will legitimately do that if they ever were allowed to do that, like blow up buildings and stuff, bring down and kill all those people or more. Those people from that are pretty annoyed for because America is like they're over there in their business and stuff. Those people are enraged enough to do that. And I mean, I think the government, it did they did they don't see it as like all bad. This is not completely bad that this happened, 9/11 happened, because I don't know, it gave us an excuse to go like further the war, to escalate the war and stuff. That's what they're probably thinking. But because this fell right out of him, fell straight. It was something that fell right out of heaven, right from heaven. Um, but yeah, I mean, who would want to? I don't know. I don't think the government would want to like risk so much, and especially things like doing something like that is kind of hard to keep the secret contained, like the info contained and stuff. So I mean, the government could have easily, like they created Al Qaeda and stuff. I'm pretty sure some of those they control some of that Al Qaeda, like the leaders. The CIA gives them orders, or whoever, the FBI, basically the government. they could have just ordered one of those like top leaders to, I don't know, recruit a couple of the patsies, like the ground soldiers. And the ground soldiers are not really, they think they're fighting for a legitimate like Islamic cause, but they're just being like patsies. But that could easily happen. They could just like recruit some of them, like tell one of their leaders to recruit some of them and like send them over here to do a mission. And then they might like ease the regulations or the security for them to like get through and stuff. I think that's a lot more likely that it would have happened, even though they don't need it. I don't know. The people have like legitimate grievances, as it is. Like the U.S. government doesn't have to butt into it. To yeah, the U.S. government doesn't have to butt into it to like make them want to attack them, or actually, from the meddling over there in those like Middle Eastern affairs, they've created enough anger for that to be possible, for them to be like motivated enough to attack America. But yeah, that's what they could have done. They could have recruited some patsies, some ground soldiers that don't really know what's going on, and they could have done that. Like that would have been a lot easier than setting up the buildings with explosives and to bring them down and stuff. Or whether it's like conventional explosives or nuclear thermite, or whatever they call that stuff that's used to melt steel. And I mean, there's just a lot of weird coincidences. But I mean, coincidences like that, they just happen sometimes. Like, especially when, like, I mean, it's happened to me in like my regular everyday life. Whenever like any dramatic incident like that happens, sometimes there's like very strange and weird coincidences that look as if somebody had like planned them and carried them out. They didn't just happen randomly, but more likely than not, they just happen randomly. And I mean, as far as like Building 7 coming down, they say that it fell at free fall. And how do you know that it fell at free fall? Stuff. I mean, they can kind of gauge at the speed it was falling, but not completely. And I mean, all those engineers, they say that, I don't know, like they say that there were 1,000 engineers that agree with the conspiracy, but I mean, there's a lot more that don't agree with it. But I mean, that's still not relevant because, I mean, let's say that the government did do that. Let's say that, well, they say that they did that to justify the wars and stuff. But I mean, first of all, they don't need something that dramatic, that like catastrophic to happen. In order to like invade another country. I mean, they've done it before. They've invaded other countries before without any prior. All they need is basically, to the media starts demonizing the leader of that country, and then the people just justify it in their mind and stuff. I mean, not that the people have any say in like the military actions of the country of America, right? But I mean, you don't really have a say in any of that stuff unless you're like doing massive protests. But yeah, I mean, they just, whenever they want a war, they just go ahead and do it, like start a war. But yeah, they don't really need justification. Just as long as the media tells the American people that, I don't know, so and so guy over there in that country is like bad, and like it's like a threat to us, and he's plotting to kill, like hurt America in some way, shape, or form. Yeah, it's good enough for them to go take it out with their like, because Americans think they have like a moral high ground and stuff. Like they can tell everybody what to do and stuff. Or at least that's the attitude that they've displayed throughout the years, or as long as I've been alive, which is not very, very long, but whatever. Um, okay, yeah. So I mean, they said Building 7, even the news crew that was recording, and they had like Building 7 on the shot. And this reporter, female reporter, said that it was like it had already like collapsed and stuff, and it was still standing there on the video. Um, I don't know. I mean, it was just barely happening, and it was just like within like a short amount of right after it happened. There was still like a bunch of plumes of smoke. Well, that lasted for like weeks, but it just barely happened. And with something like that really happens, you know, there's a lot of mix up of information, like misinformation stuff, until they clear up all their doubts and stuff, and they get it right. But right at the beginning, there's a bunch of misinformation. But I don't know, the Building 7 could have probably they did collapse from, even though it looks like, I mean, it looks like there were like dynamite freaking sticks blowing up, like exploding on the sides and stuff. It did look a lot like a controlled demolition, but um I don't know, it could have fallen from I mean, I've never been to New York City. That could probably help with my assessment. Uh, but I mean, the whole point I'm trying to make, I don't know, the Building 7, they said it collapsed because of the fire, like uncontrolled fire burning for several hours, or for a long time. Yeah, but I mean, all these coincidences and stuff. I mean, people looked deep and hard into it, and they found coincidences like that lady on that video. Like Jesse Ventura talks about this and stuff. And he doesn't say he's sure, but I mean, he says that, you know, the government is willing to lie, which is true. The government is willing to lie, but I don't think they're. I don't think they would take that much of a risk. I don't know. They probably wouldn't take that much of a risk, like setting up those like buildings to collapse, just to go to war, when I don't know, they don't really need to do that to go to war, because I don't know, they do whatever they want. And I mean, an even easier alternative was to like get some patsies to come over and cause those like terrorist attacks and stuff, like perpetrate the terrorist attacks, and that would have been a more legitimate way, and like a safer way and stuff. I don't know, unless they're lunatics and they want to challenge themselves, they want to do the hardest, they want to do things the hard way. They could have done that, set up the buildings to collapse, like blow them up. But I don't know. Certainly, the building could collapse just from the fires and the airplanes hitting them and stuff. And yeah, keep in mind that there's a bunch of misinformation. You know, right after something happens, like in the moments after it, because I don't know, it's like whenever you hear a story one time, like a complex story, like fairly complex story, one time, and then they tell you to like regurgitate it and stuff. Sometimes you're gonna, or some people are gonna mix up the. There's gonna be people that are gonna mix up the details and the who, what, when, where, how many, whatever, you know, the details of the story, how the story went. There's some people that are going to mix it up, but as you hear it like more than once, like twice, 3 times, you know, the whole story pieces start to fall together in the right place. So that's basically how it happens. You know, there's a bunch of misinformation right after something happens, because like people can't like it's like they can't process all the information at once. Hold on. Oh man. Yeah. The screen just went off. So yeah, that's my explanation for Building 7. Although I haven't done that much investigation, but it is clear that, I mean, the government doesn't need a war, like an excuse like that or justification to like go to war. They can just go ahead and do it because they do whatever they want, more or less. You know, they could have invaded Iraq like the first time they did. I don't know. They say that there's a bunch of lies to start. They lied to start every war, like the Gulf of Tonkin for Vietnam and stuff. But I mean, people in America are indifferent to the wars that are going on and stuff. It's like something distant that's not really happening, unless like unless those countries start to retaliate, and then you start to see like Americans dying and stuff, like real casualties, like next door and stuff, like in your neighborhood. And that's when people would like start like snap out of it and pay attention, start paying attention, and started holding their government accountable. But in a place such as Iraq or Afghanistan, they know that, you know, they don't have the capabilities to like retaliate. Like they don't even have an air force that can come over here or any of that stuff. Like the best they can do is like suicide bombers maybe, but it's very unlikely. It's still pretty unlikely. Um, so yeah, that's why the government thinks they can act like that and like escalate wars or start wars, wage war against other countries, because they know that the people in America are too distracted and indifferent, and that those countries can't like retaliate to like get the American people's attention. And like that would be the one of the ways that they could like hold the US government accountable for that. Okay. So yeah, do you understand or no? But yeah, it's not necessary at all for that to happen. I don't know. I think you're just convoluting everything, like overcomplicating it. Yeah, but it's good. Basically, food for thought. All right. Until later. So I have to go to sleep. Bye.